Hi, good morning, good afternoon, good evening, wherever you are. This is Lisa from Adventures in Agriculture. Yes, we call it Adventures because they're ventures that we're going to be taking and all about agriculture and how we can improve the agricultural process. So today I'm joined again by Dr. Yannick Van Doorne, and we'll be following up on our first video on how we use electroculture to support growth, development, and enhance health of trees. As you may remember from our last video, Dr. Van Doorne was able to walk us through two of the multiple methods to support tree health. Those two, we're talking about paramagnetic rocks and then also copper coils in various iterations. We're going to do a continuation of that discussion. And Dr. Van Doorne is going to walk us through some variety of things. So first of all, welcome, Yannick. How are you today?
Good, thank you. Thank you, Lisa, for inviting me again to explain those electroculture techniques and how to help trees.
Terrific. So just to let everybody know, today is January 25th, 2023. We're going to be moving forward in this process. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to open up and I'm going to share the screen with Yannick. So Yannick, first of all, why don't you do just a little quick summary on the first two approaches that we looked at for trees with the rocks, paramagnetic rocks, and with the copper coils, and then we can talk about the next steps on there. So I'm giving you share screen capability now too, okay?
Yes, share screen with the board, maybe, yes, sorry.
Sure. Great, there you are, great.
So I don't see the board now. Yes, like this maybe. Yes, okay.
There you are. We're getting into the technical parts of it now. Thank you. Perfect. That's much better.
So last time I showed you how to use the copper circuit, the copper coil, that is also named the Lakowski coil. It's just an open circle in copper, and that will create like an antenna effect with the earth magnetic, electromagnetic energies and cosmic that will be amplified locally inside. And the plants will be like feeded or will have healing frequencies inside the coil. And this will help the plant for growing well and healthy.
Great.
Then we talked about the second technique, about the use of basalt rock. And basalt rock will act some differently. The basalt that is mostly very paramagnetic will be in resonance with the earth magnetic field. It's like it will amplify locally the earth magnetic field. And in scientific studies, it is shown that when the earth magnetic field is more amplified, the plants grow also a lot better. And that's what we see also in agriculture. You find that back also in the books and research of Phil Callahan that did a lot of research about that. So it's about the paramagnetic effect for increasing fertility of the soil. Now we will speak about two other techniques, more technical. It's the magnetic antenna, how we can create even a more magnetic resonance effect with a certain device that I call magnetic antenna, or the earth magnetic antenna, and also how we can also increase the electrical influences of the atmosphere on Earth, and how we can, with a kind of antennas like this, how we can improve also soil fertility and the health of plants. So, and how to use it on a tree. Yeah.
Okay. Great. That sounds very, very exciting. So is this something, Yannick, that you would do in addition to, or you would do it just use this type of technique on the trees?
You can do it in addition. It would be very good, and it will even improve the effect. Now, in a practical viewpoint, if you have just a few trees, it's very easy to do in addition all those techniques. But if you have like 1,000 trees, you cannot do all those techniques. Like you cannot put one antenna close to each tree. But if they are very important trees that you want to save, it can be really a very interesting technique. If, for example, you have a 500-year-old tree that is sick and that you want to save, you can invest to do some more techniques to improve also the energy. But if it's a big field, an orchard, you will not be able to do to put an antenna close to each tree. But you can also use those techniques, but then you will put like an antenna for a whole field, or like 5 antennas for a whole field, or even more. You have to see what is cost effective also. So we can look at this now. I will show you the basic principle, how it works, and then we can discuss about the cost and what are the possibilities in an orchard, for example.
Terrific. Let's do that. Yeah. So if you could walk us through a little bit first about what the technique is and how you start this process.
So I go back to the board so I can show you with some drawings.
Yes, Professor.
So I will show you. So there's the technique of the earth magnetic antenna. So what is the earth magnetic antenna? It's basically a galvanized steel wire that will be put oriented north-south with the earth magnetic field. And also a magnet. Here, that's a round magnet, like a cylindrical magnet, but in absolute terms, you could use any magnet. But I use always, for different reasons and practical reasons too, a cylindrical magnet like this. It's all little magnets, you see. There are 6. And then I put this on the galvanized steel wire. Do you see it correctly? Yes, I think.
Yes, I see that.
On the galvanized steel wire. And the magnet and the wire has to be really oriented north-south with the earth magnetic field. I will show you a drawing.
Okay, so everything you do with these wires always has this north-south orientation.
Yes, because we want to act as a receiver of the earth magnetic energy. So we have to orient it with the earth magnetic energies. It's not the antenna itself that will bring the energies. No, this acts only as a receiver, like a radio receiver.
Okay.
If you have the planet Earth, you have the North Pole, the South Pole, and you have the magnetic lines around like this.
The toroidal field, as we call it, right?
Yes, the Earth magnetic field. And when you take a compass, I have one here. When you take a compass, you will have the red dot to up here like this. You see?
Yes.
You will have the red dot like this. That's a compass. And so we will need always to put the magnetic earth magnetic antenna always in that direction.
Correct.
There's a question that comes regularly back. It's that people ask, is it the same in the northern hemisphere or the southern hemisphere? Yes, because the magnetic field is in the same direction. So you put always the magnet on the south side and the wire on the north side.
Okay.
And what you can do too, yes, and if you look with a compass, you see it will be like this.
Mm-hmm.
It has to be in that direction.
Okay. And where are you putting these wires then? So I see
And
you
then,
have something, I mean, I don't want us to, the viewers to confuse. You have a pole with multiple wires on the side of your board. That's not what you're doing. You're putting, are we laying wires on the soil? Is that what you're doing?
if you have a tree.
Correct.
So you will put the wire, if the north is here,
Mm-hmm.
and the south here,
Mm-hmm.
then you will put the wire here in that direction with the earth magnetic or the antenna here on the south.
And Yannick, is that laying
in the soil, on the soil?
On the soil. So that's in addition to potentially any paramedic, the basalt rocks,
yes,
and copper wires. It's putting this galvanized steel with magnet on the soil itself.
Yes, yes.
How far away from the trees do you put that?
Yes, that's
how many
question.
would you put?
I will put like this. You put the wire like this, for example,
Mm-hmm.
in the soil. Huh? You can also put it on the soil. If you have wires in the air, you can also put it in the air, but that's not very practical. So
okay.
you will put it in the soil.
Okay. And how many do you do?
You will put it at a distance of like close to the tree, like maybe 20-30 centimeters from the tree. Okay. The closest it is, the better it is, but you have to let the tree, you have to let enough place that the tree can grow. So you will put it like 20-30 centimeters from the tree, for example.
Mm-hmm.
And also something very interesting. You can, if you have like thousands of trees or hundreds of trees, you cannot put a magnet at each tree. That would be not practical and not. So what you can do, and this will also have a lot of effects, little less, but it will also have effect. It's just you take a wire like this, like around 50 centimeters. I would take 52 centimeters because it's a sacred length of the royal cubit. And this can also have some more effects. But I would take like 52 centimeters or 1 meter. And then you can magnetize the wire just by put the magnet close, really against the wire. And also at the other side, you go through the wire like this. And then you go here, and then the whole wire will be magnetized. And when you look with a compass, you will see the whole wire is magnetized now.
Wow, that's interesting. And how long does that magnetism last? Oh, sorry, I'm sorry.
Yeah, yes, sorry. It's like a huge magnet now. And so it will act as a magnetic antenna. And then you put this close to the tree, so this will be a lot cheaper than the wire with the magnet. But this is very interesting if you have to do a lot of trees.
So for a large scale orchard, you could do this type of thing. How long would that magnetic effect last with the wires when you do that, Yannick?
This will stay forever. As long as the wire is existing, it will be magnetized in that direction. Now, with time, now in real life, with time, the wire will maybe rust. And after maybe 10 years, 20 years, it will be, or maybe 5 years, it depends on the soil, it will be completely rusted away, or oxidized. But if you take a thicker wire, it will last a lot longer time than a fine wire like this. You can You can, for example, also take like a rebar like this. This will be a little bit more expensive, but it's not. It's also quite cheap. But you can take a rebar like this and also magnetize it with a magnet on the two ends, or even completely through by forcing along like this. And then it will be magnetized in a certain way. And then you have to orient it also in the good way with the Earth magnetic field.
Right.
We have always to work with the Earth magnetic field and not against it. If we put it in the other way, against the Earth magnetic field, opposed to it, then it will have harmful effects. Then
Right.
the plants will be weakened. So that's
sense.
not what we want. So
Makes
very
sense.
important to use a compass and to put it in the right way.
Terrific. And so what would you say would be the optimal width or thickness of this galvanized steel wire as you approach this process?
I would say the optimal, it's like 2.5 square millimeter thick. It's a little bit thicker as this one, but this one is also very good. But you have a little bit thicker. It's very practical because it stays very straight. It will last a very long time, and it's more easy to have like to make a straight wire, because when you bury it, it's like in a roll. Right. Then you can fold it like in a straight wire, and it will
easier
be the most easy
to put out there. Could you do could you draw on your board what a layout would look like? How many wires would you put around each tree in the soil? It'd be one on each side, multiple wires going out, or is it, give us what the sort of an optimal schematic of how you would install this.
So that's a very basic schematic. You just put the wire.
So just one wire.
Just one will also already have good effects. Now the length of the wire, if you can, you make it like 2-3 meters long. It will be better than a short wire if you make a long wire of 2-3 meters. Now, if you have a big orchard and you have to make many, it will be more difficult. But then you put like 50 centimeters, 52 centimeters, it will be good. You can also put 2 wires. Then if you have the tree, we do again the tree.
Okay.
Then you put 1 wire on each side.
Okay.
With the antenna or without.
Right.
So and that will act like a railway. And in Germany, in the beginning of the century, there was also a guy doing electroculture, and he discovered that when the railways were perfectly north-south, there were a lot more weeds growing through the stones and everything, and they have to weed a lot more, to put a lot more herbicides, and then he tested just with wires by 2 north-south, and it works also very, very good.
That's very interesting. I love that anecdote. It's very interesting. So that's wonderful. So you would say that the optimal is 2.5 centimeter thickness in the galvanized steel wire.
No, it's not 2.5 millimeters.
Millimeter. I'm sorry. Thank you for correcting me. So optimal width is 2.5 millimeters of the galvanized wire. A magnet on the south end. The length is 2 to 3 meters. You can put 1 wire, or you could put 2 wires in a layout that looks like a railway surrounding the tree. Is that correct?
Yes, it's correct. Now, if you put the wires before planting your orchard, then you can put the whole field with wires, and then you put every 1.50 meters in parallel a wire. But then it's a whole orchid. Then it's before you plant the trees. Then you put like this. But if the trees are already planted, it's difficult to do. You cannot do that.
You don't want to, yeah. You don't want to uproot the tree. Okay.
Then you can put like this, the wires, like this, and an antenna on the south, north, and an antenna here. And then you put the trees like this, it's like you want, the trees. And then it will act on the whole field with those magnetic energies. But that's before planting, if you want to use it.
Right, that's wonderful. So you prep that. And as you said before, that the galvanized wire lasts anywhere from 5 to 20 years. It may degrade in the soil depending upon the soil type, and the magnets last the same amount of time.
Yes, the magnets will last even a lot more, maybe 100 years or 1,000 years. The magnet has no reason to deteriorate. Right. It stays like a rock in the soil. It's really, it doesn't change the magnet. The magnet can only lose its magnetic field with a shock, like a hammer on iron, or with heat. But heat like above 70 degrees or 100 degrees. So in nature, this never happens normally. So.
Right, terrific. Yes, I don't see in nature things, hammers coming out of nowhere without people putting them there. Good point, good point. So let's talk, you mentioned a few times about the soil itself. Does this work in all soil types, or are there things that you have to do to support different types of soil?
Those three techniques we already talked about, and that magnetic antenna will work in any soil type. Even if there is no soil, it will work. It's really energy. It's it's pure invisible energy, and it even doesn't need really the soil. It just it will improve the energetic environment of the plant.
Okay.
Now the soil, when we put basalt, for example, it will improve the soil. In the soil, you have life, living organisms, microorganisms. And those are also very interesting and very important for the fertility of the soil and the plants. And so when you will do that, you will also increase the health and the fertility of all those microorganisms and the soil itself. So the soil is it's complementary, and it will also improve the soil. So we see that with all those techniques, it will improve the health and the growth of the tree, but also the health and the growth of all living organisms, the good ones in the soil. Yes.
Yannick, you mentioned a lot about the health of the soil with the paramagnetic rock, the basalt rock, which I thought was very interesting. And you also mentioned that these microorganisms really flourish once you treat the soil with the basalt. In that, the next point that I get out of that is that you're actually increasing oxygen in the soil as well as microorganisms. How important is oxygenation in the soil for soil health, or does that not play a big role in this? In
the electroculture point of view, oxygen is very important too. Oxygen acts also like a paramagnetic, basalt, because oxygen is also very paramagnetic. And for good soil fertility, you need the two forces. You need diamagnetic forces and paramagnetic forces. And with all those techniques, it will increase the good microorganism and the earthworms too. They like it very much. And those will also directly increase the oxygen levels in the soil, because they will create a structure of the soil that make it possible that the air flows through the soil and that oxygen can penetrate deeply in the soil.
Terrific. Yeah.
There is also another effect with the magnetic energies. When you magnetize water, for example, and in the soil you have a lot of water, it will reduce its surface tension. It's a specific physical property of the water, and it will make that the water can dissolve more oxygen inside. When you have polluted water, there is always less oxygen inside than in healthy, clear water. If you have energized water with magnetic field or other type of energetic devices or systems, in most cases, it will also increase the oxygen levels in the water, but naturally. It's like the exchange between the air and the water will be, the water will be able to hold more oxygen, and this will also increase soil fertility. And like the soil is mostly water too, it can have a very important effect.
Sounds like that's a discussion we should have in another video, which is water quality, energy, oxygenation. So we'll save that for another one. But I'm really glad that you're raising the point about oxygen, because I think that so much of what the health issues that we're facing right now are decreased oxygenation levels in all living organisms, and soil, I would imagine, as you've been saying, is part of that. All right. Well, very interesting. Thank you. And the wealth of information. So we'll talk about this antenna. First of all, the wires on there. I think now, is there anything else you want to talk about on the wires on the ground, or do you want to go into the antenna part at this point?
About the cost, the wires, for example, for 1 hectare or 2.5 acres, the cost is around like 300 to 700 euros today, or dollars, to have an idea about the cost on 1 hectare. And that's when you put really a lot of wires, every 1.50 meters or every 2 meters. So for an orchard, it's very interesting before planting, because it will maybe double the growth of the plants, and also will increase the growth and also the fruit yields and the health of the plant. So it can be very, very interesting. Also, something very interesting that we observed is that when you have a wire in the soil like this and that is magnetized, we see that the plants, when they make their roots, they follow the wire. It's like they are attracted to the wire, and then they follow it to the north. It's really the root of the plants acts also like an antenna, and it needs also those kind of energies, and it follows really the wire. It's really strange.
Yeah, that's interesting. When we go and we talk about the olive trees, I'll talk to you about the sort of the genesis of what you're talking about there is very, very important. So very, very reasonable cost to really treat a hectare of land, 200 to 700 euros, which is very, very reasonable for the length of time, because it's not a repeated investment. It's a one-time investment.
If you buy the magnets, with it, the magnets is also around those costs. Now, today, the costs are rapidly changing with the world economy and everything what is happening. But the prices I told you, it's what it's last years. But it will always be quite cheap in comparison with the results you can gain out of it. If they use fertilizers, the fertilizers cost more than the installation of all those things. So
exactly, and that's a repeated cost.
yes, and it's a repeated cost. And here, if you calculate over the years, it's almost no cost, because once it's installed, it will stay for a long time, like 10 years or more. So it's
right.
it's
No,
really
that's very efficient. Good.
Mm.
And then you talked about the magnets. Those magnets, you and I've had the opportunity to talk about them, but you treat them with a special, treat them differently. You want to just articulate what you do with your magnets, so people understand and why you do that.
Ah, yes. Yeah, that's also a whole subject, huh? But you can use just simple magnets like this. But if you want to improve, then what I do is I put also a Lakowski coil around it. You don't see it really well, because but it's inside. There is like a copper wire, it's like a bracelet like this, that I make also for people.
He makes jewelry now.
Or for trees.
Yeah.
But I make like a very a little one around that will also improve the effect. And then you have the energy of the Lakowski coil all over the wire. And then I put also beeswax, like you see, it's the yellow wax around. And that's because beeswax, it's full of very healthy molecules from nature. And when the magnetic field will go through the beeswax, it will like memorize and will excite all those molecules that will also radiate or transmit their good frequencies to the wall antenna and to the plants. And this can also really improve a lot the health of the plants.
The beeswax that you put on it, does it need to be beeswax from a particular region? Is that helpful, or it's irrelevant about where the wax comes from?
Yeah, every beeswax, all beeswax will be good in mostly from anywhere in the world, because the bees, they will collect a lot of different flowers anywhere in the world, and you will find back in the beeswax all molecules corresponding with all essential oils of all the flowers the bees visits. So it's really thousands of different natural molecules that give natural healing frequencies. And so it's very good. Now, if you can choose your beeswax, then choose better beeswax from bees from nature, natural environments with less pesticides as possible, because pesticides will not have healing frequencies.
Exactly. Yeah, that's what we're all trying to do here. That's interesting. I mean, every time I hear about honey, any element from the bee, they are just critical and foundational for our health. I heard even one comment that said that you could actually survive on a little teaspoon of honey per day, because that's how nutritious the honey is for all of us without food. I thought that was an interesting comment as well. Terrific. Okay, so we've gone through these galvanized steel wires that are in the soil. As you said that you now antennae. Do you want to go through the next, or is there anything else?
If we have time, we can go to the next technique.
Yeah, let's do that. Let's do that.
Okay.
Terrific.
So I show you on the board. So the next technique will be to put like an antenna like this, an atmospheric antenna like this, for example, close to the tree. So and this will increase the communication of the Earth electrical energies. It's not the magnetic energies, it's more the electrical part of the spectrum. So it's we know that between the atmosphere, the ionosphere and the soil, you have like 300,000 volts, or 100,000 to 300,000 volts. And this corresponds with 1 volt every meter high. And when we put like an antenna like this close to the tree, it will protect the trees, and it will also stimulate that communication. And we see that plants grow a lot better around such an antenna.
So wow, so you said 100,000 to 300,000 volts, voltage of electricity. Is that what you're saying?
Yes, yes, yes. That's we are living in an environment with more than 300,000 volts between the ionosphere and the Earth's surface. Wow. So we are living in that.
No wonder I give electrical shocks when I touch that furniture and touch people.
But it's like a field. Huh? It's like it's invisible, but it can be measured with specific devices. But you don't take electrical shocks because there is not much amperage. There is very little electrical current, but it's a high tension, but with no current or almost no current. So that's why we don't take electrical shocks. Terrific. But you can take when there is thunder, storms like this, then you can take.
And then you get the shocks. Yeah. Terrific. Okay.
So if you have the tree, so then you put the antenna like this. Yeah. Like this, close to the tree, like maybe 1 to 5 meters. And on the south side, south, north. So always the tree on the north side and the antenna on the south, like this. And the height of the tree, I will do it a little bit different that you see it. and the antenna higher than the tree, if you can. Huh? It's better because it will protect the tree. It will create like an umbrella effect.
Okay.
Of the electrical fields. Huh? It will create like an invisible dome or energy field around the antenna that will protect all the plants in a certain radius.
Interesting. And does that connect in with any of the other options that you've looked at, such as the wire that we talked in the bottom and the paramagnetic rock, or could you do this as an isolated intervention to support trees?
Yes, you can do that. This is very, very powerful. If you only use this, you have already huge effects, a lot more than all the other techniques. So it's really a very powerful technique and very easy technique. So you can use just an iron rebar like this, but you can also use a bamboo stick, for example, that is very long. For example, you can use a bamboo stick and then put wires on top. Like here, you have different models, but those are models I make and I sell on my site, but you can make also other models. It's not so, the way it's done, it's not so important.
But so this looks like it's copper.
Yes, here it's copper.
And that's galvanized steel.
But you can make it in copper or in galvanized steel wire. In the two ways it will work. But if you use different metals, maybe it works better, but that's not completely sure, but maybe. So you can use different metals. You can put all metals together, like a bunch of it on a bamboo stick or on a rebar. And then you can, if it's a wooden stick, like a bamboo stick, then you have to put a wire to connect the electrical energies from the earth through the antenna. If it's a rebar, if it's an iron stick, then then it will connect because this is
So
already
you don't have to add that extra wire in
conducting the electricity, so it will work. But otherwise, you put a wire to connect.
Okay.
And so the most easy, if it's for a professional grower, you do it like this. It's with a rebar and an antenna on top, and you just have to put in the soil and it's done. Now, if the trees are little, then it's easy because then you make an antenna of, like, for example, 3 to 4 meters high, and it's easy to do if the tree is like 2-3 meters high. But if the tree is very big, then it will not work very well. Because if the antenna is lower than the tree, you will maybe not have effect or not enough. So the best is when it's big. You can also use, a moment I show you something. You can also use, that's an idea I had last year, and it's very easy idea. It's a fishing line, I don't know the name. Is to go to fish.
Fishing.
Telescopic. That it's telescopic like this. And then you can go very high, like 10 meters high. It's very strong in the winds. It stays like this.
Interesting.
And you can go very high, and then you put like this an antenna with a little just on top of it, and the wire going to the soil.
And it could actually grow with a tree as the tree it increases.
Also, yes, if you want it, you can also do it like this. But the higher you put it, the more it will have effect. So I will say minimum 3 to 4 meters, and you can go to 6 meters. That's a telescopic pole of 6 meters, for example. That works very, very well.
That's interesting. Okay, so it really is, you need to go 3 to 4 meters in height in order for it to be effective or to optimize the effectiveness of it, but you can go up to 6 meters, which is very interesting.
And I will show you something new also, since a year or two that I developed also directly. So if you want to put the pole in the soil, that's not strong enough in the soil. So then what you can do is to take like this. It's like a screw to put in the soil. You screw it in the soil, and then I make a good size hole inside, and then you just put the pole inside. It's very easy. And in 5 to 10 minutes, you have done the work of putting a big antenna in your garden or close to your tree that you want to save. It's very, very practical and easy. It's like a screw like this.
Yes, that does look like a giant screw. So can we go back to the antenna, the top part of the antenna itself, and show people the how you put that together? So if they want to make it themselves, or can you buy things like this? So you have one with just the galvanized steel that's right next to you. And then you have the one that you make on your website, which is out of the copper. And it looks like there's a specific coil in the middle. But could you just walk us through a little bit about how you make that?
Yes.
Thank you.
So if you have a tube, you take a copper tube or iron tube. It's better copper, because iron will rust, and then it will be, and the rust make like an isolation, so it's not so good after a while.
But copper also, copper also rusts, correct?
Yes, copper will oxidize too, but it will always still conduct the electricity. So it's and it will oxidize a lot less than iron. It will be it will stand a lot longer, but it works with the two. Or otherwise you can use a galvanized steel. tubes. That works too. And then you put the wires like this. You can just put wires, pieces of wires, of copper wire, like this. And then you can put, I will show you where did I.
How do you add those wires to the tube? Are you tying them together?
Yes, how to you can take another wire and to wrap it around if that's the most easy to do. But otherwise, I'm searching where I've put antenna.
Okay, take your time.
Because then I show you, but maybe here.
Okay.
Oh, strange. I lay it down somewhere, but on the way. So you can just put a wire around like this, or you take like how to say that it's like something to put the wires together and with a screw like this.
A clamp or?
Ah, yes, I have it here. You see, like this. That's. Sorry. It's like this. You see, if you see it good, like a ring like this.
Yeah, slow down because the video is not doing it, catching you. Okay. Yeah, turn that around slightly so people can see. Okay, so it's a little clamp type of a thing.
Yes, like a clamp like this. You have different, and that's easy. You can put the wires all together and just clamp it around the tube, for example, or directly around the pole. You can also do it. Okay. Here, what I do, like you see, I clamp the wires in the tube. You see, I have a clamp that do it also.
And it's that makes those wires stay in. So essentially you just put wires in and then allow them to spread out normally. You clamp the tube so the wires don't come out, and then you can attach this tube to whatever type of pole you want to put on.
Yes. And here you put an iron bar, a rebar, or a bamboo stick, or a pole, or a telescopic pole. That's the most easy. Huh?
The telescopic pole sounds very, very smart idea.
Yes, because 100 years ago, when you look in old books, they used always like a telephone pole, like of 6 meters high, that was thick like this, that is very weighty and difficult to manage, to use. And now with the modern techniques, you can use telescopic poles of carbon, of fiberglass or whatever. Now it's possible to make it very cheap and very easy. That was not possible 100 years ago. So now today we can use similar old techniques of electroculture from the past, but with the modern materials, it makes it a lot more easy to a lot
less expensive. Very interesting. So let's go through now the optimal execution, I should say, of this concept. Is it a pole per tree, or is it number of poles surrounding an orchard?
If you have just a few trees you want to save, then you can put a pole for each tree. But if you have a whole orchard with thousands of trees, it's not possible. We understand. So then you can do it a little bit different. Then you put like 5 to 10 poles for 1 hectare. I will show you.
Okay. Yeah, let's I love your schematics. It's very, very helpful to visualize how this
works. If you have a field like this, a big field, then you will put a pole of 6 meters high every 10 to 20 meters like this.
Okay.
if the field is like 100 meters or here 50 meters width and 100 meters long, you can put, and it will radiate all around like this.
Got it.
And then you put all your trees, they are maybe in a row or they are like this.
Makes
and
sense.
They will be all influenced.
So we're looking at 5 poles within this 50 by 100
I would say
space.
Minimum 5 poles if they are very high, like more than 6 meters high. But it will be even better if you put like a double poles, 10 poles a hectare. Like I would say 10 poles a hectare. And a hectare is again 2.5 acres. So you put 10 poles of 6 meters high, for example, or when you use telescopic poles, you can put it 6 meters high, no problem, even higher. But the poles of 6 meters are the cheapest. If you take higher, it's directly a lot more expensive because it has to be more stronger made, and the prices are directly increasing a lot.
And is there any value for, is it much higher value to have something higher than 6 meters?
No, I would say 6 meters is very good. It's better to put more. An example, if you take a telescopic pole of 6 meters in a shop, or in a fishing shop, it will cost around maybe 50 to 100 euros. If you take one of 10 meters, 1,000 euros. So it's better.
Right, no, simply you optimize that price.
So it's better to take 2 of 6 meters than 1 of 10 meters. You understand? It will be a lot less expensive, and it will work as good.
Okay, so the way you're saying this is that you can make these poles optimized minimum of 3 to 4 meters, but they're optimized at around 6 meters in height.
Yes.
You can use a variety of materials for the pole itself, but the heads of this, the antennae, could be out of galvanized steel or copper, with copper being probably the best, with a copper tube. And then you put the wires in there and you can clamp them on either end. And the pole, depending upon the material of the pole, it may or may not need another wire to ground it into the ground. And the optimal layout is 10 poles per hectare, or about 5 poles per a 50 by 100. And that's a very good layout to execute this type of a.
And then the layout, for example, if it's a field where you have to go with the tractors and everything, if you have the trees in a row, then you can put the poles in the row too, that you can drive in between the rows. So you can do that. You can also connect the wire of the pole if you have already wires in the soil or above it, or to hold the trees. You can connect the wire of the pole of the antenna on the wire that is already in the soil and or on the trees, because this will also help to propagate that energy. So
it'll take the energy from the ether and bring it down into the soil and just even strengthen that electric connection.
Yes, yes, yeah.
Connect to that. Wow.
So that's it. Yes, you can use copper, galvanized steel. That's the 2 most used metals for that application. But you can also use aluminum. It works too. You can also use a combination of those materials.
And Yannick, just one last question on your version. You have a coil in the middle, and is there a purpose on that coil element?
Yes, it's also an improvement, but it's a whole subject by itself.
Okay.
But you can improve with coils because those will also bring some other new energies that are also very beneficial. So then I combine different techniques in one, but that's
another subject.
another, or we will talk about it in another video.
Another video. That's wonderful. Well, Yannick, this is terrific. Thank you. So we've gone through 4 techniques now to support and enhance tree health that can be implemented individually or in combination, that are all very cost effective, one-time execution that allows you to do it a one-time treatment. It's not an annual cost, it's a single cost to get these into your orchard or by tree. Can be implemented not only for large scale, but also on the small scale. These make a lot of sense. So this is very interesting. So maybe at one point, Yannick, we can actually do some visuals and give some put them in the bottom of the video. But right now, I think that's a really fantastic second part to our tree series. So I want to thank you for that. Is there anything else you want to share with us before we close out this session?
An example, for example, I planted trees 2 years ago, apple trees. Mm-hmm. I did a lot of different experiments on it. And there was one tree, I put a pole like this. And that was the growth was double than all the others, and they had already full of apples the second year of planting. So it's really very effective.
That's actually really interesting. So normally, how long would a tree take to bear fruit? An apple tree?
If you buy a little apple tree that you plant in your garden, most cases it's after 3 to 5 years you have fruit, and in the beginning it have mostly difficult to grow because it don't have much roots, but with all those techniques the root formation will be really increased a lot more rapidly. The plants are also a lot more resistant to drought and stress conditions of our climate with those techniques. You will see you see the results very, very fast. After a few months, you will already see results.
All right, terrific, because I think that's interesting for a variety of types of tree crops. But Yannick, I want to thank you for this wonderful information and thank everybody for listening about health of trees. So thank you. This is Lisa from Adventures in Agriculture, and this has been part 2 of our tree series. Thank you for joining us, and we look forward to our next segment. Thank you, Yannick.
Thank you. Thank you, Lisa.